seated, thanks.
You okay starting with?
Please, ma'am.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Please.
Go ahead, Mr. Escobar.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Knox, I'm going to show you, may I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as defense exhibit number 79 and ask you if you are aware of that particular exhibit.
Yes,
Is that an exhibit of what?
it's a PowerPoint slide presentation that I prepared.
Okay, is that of some of the work that you did in this particular case?
Yes,
And more importantly, of the work that you did in this case in order to show the lighting effect within the Cobb Theater on January the 13th of 2014.
that's correct.
Your Honor, at this point in time, we would introduce this into evidence. I will tell you that the entire presentation, with the exception of the mannequin photos that are contained within this exhibit, have been stipulated to. There is a memo, I believe, on the mannequin photos that I know the court will consider both the government's motion as well as the defense motion, and whether you're going to be using those in your analysis in this case.
Judge, that's not entirely correct. I also filed a separate Daubert motion regarding the photographs of the general seating area without the mannequin in it, dealing with the lighting issue, and that's also on Your Honor's desk. And a copy has been provided to Mr. Escobar.
I'm not sure that these contain those, but I'm sure that counsel will certainly alert to the court if in fact some of those photos are contained within his objections to his motion.
Only thing I'd ask is that this is where we've agreed that you got to hear it anyway.
Right.
So I go ahead and make my motion now
Okay.
regarding the Daubert issues on the lighting conditions that I've thoroughly briefed
Right.
and provided to the court with attachments. So when we come to the mannequins, if it's all right with the judge or with those specific photographs dealing with lighting in the general area, I'll just, if it's all right, just stand and say that will be referenced by one of my Daubert motions, and I'll sit down.
Okay.
And that way you can mark in your notes exactly what we're talking about.
Correct. So you're going to reference that specifically when we come to it, right?
I will, so I'm going to object to the introduction of this particular exhibit
Okay.
based on the my two Daubert motions. When we come to that point, that will be considered as a proffer, like the court said, and then you'll either accept or reject the proffer and
Okay.
the information or not. I believe that was our agreement.
Very good. So this will be admitted over objection for proffer purposes and perhaps others afterwards as, shall we give it the same numbering, I guess, 37?
I would, but may I suggest to the court that this should go to reserve ruling on the exhibit? And just leave it at that. Then at that point, I know the ones that are coming in, all the measurements and everything that's coming in. But I think the record is cleaner that way. You're either going to accept it or in total or reject it in total.
Okay, I'll do
That way
that.
the appellate record's very
All
clear
right.
that I
It'll
object to
have-
this,
right.
and you're reserving ruling on the admissibility of that entire thing until the proffer is over and you've had a chance to.
Okay. So
review
that
the
would be
new record.
37? Under
That is
those,
37.
Under those parameters. All right.
Mr. Knox, I'm going to show you what has been marked as now defense exhibit number 37, that there has been a reserved ruling by the court as to certain segments of this particular exhibit. Tell me what that exhibit is.
Well, this is a slide presentation that I prepared.
Okay, let's go to the next slide. What is this a picture of?
This is just a general reference photograph. It's the outside of the Cobb Theater, showing the front entrance of the theater.
Okay. And 404, I'm gonna actually have to have some reference with them. So the easiest thing to do is at the very bottom of this photo, there is a numerical number 4 of 40. So I'm going to, just for the record, indicate what photo you are now looking at, and that is 4 of 40. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What is 4 of 40?
This is an orientation photograph inside, just to show where the actual theater was. It's the one, the number 10, Lone Survivor. You would go in and go to the left and enter the theater.
Next one. This is 5 of 40. What is 5 of 40 depicting? And Mr. Shaw, could you please maybe zoom it up a little bit on this in the week? Oh. Okay. That's good.
This photograph is just an overall showing most of the seating, and then it's showing the yellow circle in the middle pointing out where the actual shooting took place.
And 6 of 40? What is this photo depicting?
This is just a cropped photo, I think, from the earlier one, just a little bit closer view to be able to point out the seats where Curtis Reeves was seated and where Chad Olson was seated.
7 of 40? What does this photo now depict?
This is the photograph that shows the actual seats, looking down on the seats, and shows the positioning of where Curtis Reeves, Vivian Reeves, Chad Olson, and Nicole Olson were seated.
Mr. Martin, if you at any point in time that you had an objection over a photo, if we could put on the record the number of that photo that you had an objection for, so that we have an accurate record of what photos you object to, what photos you don't.
I appreciate that. I have reviewed the presentation prior to coming in court. It's the last section, perspective, and I forget the numbers of them.
But when it comes up, if we can do that.
When you get to perspective, that's when I'll have my objection.
Okay.
Because these all have been stipulated to you, Your Honor.
That is correct, Justice.
Next one. Oh, let's go back to that back one. I want to.
Well,
do you see?
Mr. Escobar, just so the record's clear, the photographs have been stipulated to. I'm not necessarily agreeing with what's been populated in the photograph by Mr. Knox, but the photograph is we have stipulated to.
Do you see the phone in that particular photo?
Yes.
Okay. I may have that look. Does that appear to be one and the same photo as shown on exhibit number 33?
Judge, we'll stipulate it's in the photo. We'll stipulate that every item that's in there, just whatever.
And what's the relationship to that photo to the seat that Mr. Reeves was seated in?
Well, his seat is the bottom center of the photograph, and then the location of the phone would be on the floor, basically at where his feet would be, right at the back of the seat in front, which would be the seat where Nicole Olson was sitting.
Next photo. What does 8 of 40 reflect?
Showing it measurement, if you measured from the end of the armrest between the seats, and then measure to the back of the seats in front of it. And this is with the seats in their resting position, meaning nobody's seated in it. It's just the way it would rest if nobody was actually sitting in the seats. And that measurement is at 1 foot 7 inches between the cup holder and the back of the seat.
Okay. Next photo. What is that measurement?
This is showing with the seat, if you press it all the way back. So the seat back's reclined to a certain extent. So what we've done here is pressed the seat back as far back as it'll go, and then took the same measurement between the cup holder and the back of the seat, and that reduces the measurement to 1 foot 3 inches.
Okay. 10 of 40.
And this is showing a measurement from the top of the seat, which would be the seat that Curtis Reeves was sitting in, to the top back of the seat in front of it, measured on a diagonal, and that total distance is 3 feet 8 inches.
Now, the ruler that you're showing there appears to be a what we call a common tape type ruler.
right.
Would you please tell the court what exercise you went through in order to determine that that tape ruler was in fact accurate?
Well, what I do is any measuring devices that I use, I have reference standards. I've got some pretty accurate woodworking rulers that are graded to a very fine grade, and they're made to pretty high accuracy. So I always check my measuring devices against them to make sure that it's within reasonable tolerance. And usually within 5% of the measurement would be considered acceptable, and that's how I would test the tape to make sure it's usable.
Are these forensic rulers that you have that you compare these rulers against?
Right. What I actually use is like engineering grade type rulers where you have very fine and accurate divisions on them. So they're divided up into 64ths of an inch, and then I'm able to compare whatever tape measure or other measuring device that I could use those as a reference standard.
And do you do that for a reason?
Well, just to assure that I'm getting precise measurements and measurements that are as accurate as possible. I mean, precision is the repeatability of measurement. So if you happen to use more than one tape, you want to make sure that they're within close enough tolerance that if I measure something with one tape, then I turn around and measure something with another tape, that there's not going to be enough difference in them for it to matter. So basically, like I said, within about a 5% tolerance is usually considered acceptable.
Okay. Now, that's 3.8. 11? What is that?
And this is measuring similarly from the top back of the seat in front, and then back to the actual seat back of the Curtis Reeves seat. So here this one is being measured not on a diagonal but straight back to the seat back to show that the distance in between them, and it's 3 feet 2.5 inches.
12?
12. We're looking down. You see the seat, which we've pressed the seat all the way down because just like the seat backs, the seat bottoms also they have some flex in them. So when you sit down, it pushes the seat bottom down. So with it pushed all the way down, took a measurement, and you can see that the actual length of the seat bottom is 1 foot 5.5 inches, and then the distance between the front of the seat and the back of the seat in front of it is 1 foot 3.5 inches. So the total distance then from the back of the seat to where your knees would be at the seat in front of it is 2 feet 9 inches.
Next.
And this one is showing the width of one of the seat backs. It's 1 foot 8 inches across at its widest point, which is right up near the top of the seat.
Next.
This is a measurement showing the distance in between the two armrests, which is 1 foot 10 inches.
I want to go back a couple of them. Can we go back a couple of them? One more. And I want to take a look at this one. Why would you both measure from the back of the seat to the front of the seat, as well as from the front of the seat to the back of the seat in front?
Well, what you're looking at is measuring how much actual seating area. So if you're seated on it, how much room do you have to be seated on that seat? And then measuring how much room there is between the seat and the seat in front of it. So that's room where your legs could be, your knees could be, as well as when you stand up. What amount of distance would you have between the two seats?
And so what this is reflecting is that from the edge of the seat to the back of the seat in front, you would only have how much?
1 foot 3.5 inches.
Next. Let's go through the two that we... There you go. Keep going. Now, 14, what does that reflect?
That's the distance between the two armrests across the seat is 1 foot 10 inches.
Now, Mr. Knox, are these measurements important? And if they are, why are they important?
Well, it's important because one, it's confined space. There's constraints in terms of where a person could be and where they could move. I mean, because obviously we know that Mr. Reeves is seated in the seat in some fashion. He's not sitting up on the armrest or standing on top of the seat. I mean, it's pretty clear from the video that he's actually seated. So it's important to know where he could be and what constraints that he would have in terms of movement and position that he could be in.
Now, these seats have these armrests that are on each side. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay, and does that prohibit the human body from sliding over to the other seat when those armrests are down?
Yes.
Next. Photo number 15. What does that reflect?
Showing the height from the floor up to the top of the armrest, which is 2 feet and 1/2 inch.
And why is that measurement an important measurement?
Well, that in particular, from the video, it's quite clear that where Mr. Reeves is holding the gun is somewhere above the armrest, because he had his arm is raised up above that, and no higher than what his shoulder height is. So it's somewhere in that particular range. So you need to know what's the bottom end, which means that obviously 2 feet and 1/2 inch would be his arm resting on the armrest. So we need to know that parameter. That's what we'd call a boundary value. It's a lower value.
16. What does this reflect?
This is showing the height of the seat above the floor with the seat pressed down. So if somebody were sitting in this seat, this is how high the actual seat bottom would be from the floor, which is 1 foot 4 inches.
So as someone sits in that seat or pushes down with their rear end on that seat, that whole seat actually decreases in the height from the floor.
Right, right.
And is there a cushion aspect as well on the individual that's seated in that seat? In other words, if those appear to be cushions to be, would there be a cushion factor that you would have to consider in addition to the pushing down of the seat itself?
There would probably be some compression of the seat cushion, and that would be dependent on how much the person weighs and how the load is distributed in the seat.
And certainly how much a person weighed, not today, but on January the 13th of 2014.
That's right.
Okay. And is that one of the reasons that you were not able to calculate that extra step, is because some time passed before Mr. Reeves was able to sit down in that seat?
Right, right.
Next. What I'm getting at, Mr. Knox, is that he was in jail for a period of time.
That's correct.
17. What is that?
This is showing the difference between the seat bottom, where you would be sitting again with the seat pressed all the way down, and the armrest. It's 8.5 inches from the seat bottom up to the armrest.
Now that individual that is holding the seat down, who is that individual?
That's actually, his name is Mike LaForte. He is an associate that works for me.
Is he also a major crime scene detective back in the day when you were with the sheriff's office?
He's the guy that trained me when I went to the crime scene unit.
Okay. Next. What does number 18 depict?
This is showing the seat. This is the seat that Curtis Reeves was in, and you can see that there's a wall behind the seat that goes up for some distance behind the seat.
And so that's measuring both the top width of the seat, as well as it's measuring from the top of the seat up to the top railing of the wall behind the seat.
Right.
Next.
And this photograph is just showing, this is measuring from the floor up to the top of that wall, and that wall is 5 feet 2 inches high.
Next.
And this is one of the actual photographs that was taken at the shooting scene, looking down the aisle, and you can see the popcorn bag and stuff on the floor, which is right in front of where Mr. Reeves was seated.
Is that number 20?
That's correct.
Next. Number 21. I think we've probably seen this one once before. What is this depicting?
This is just pointing out the location of where the popcorn bag and the popcorn on the floor are.
Okay. Next.
And then this one, which
22.
is number 22, is showing the location of the phone, which is sort of in between where the popcorn is and the bag.
Next. That's 23.
23, and this is just a different angle, a little bit closer view of showing the phone.
Next.
Number 24, and this is showing the location of the fired cartridge case, which was on the floor, kind of in the middle area of the seat to the left of where Mr. Reeves was seated.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as PR number 495040, and it's item number AP01. And ask you to take a look at it and see if you've seen that exhibit before.
I have seen it, yes.
And what is that an exhibit of?
This is the pistol that was used in the shooting.
Your Honor, we would move this particular item into evidence, and we're going to further display this firearm.
Deputy, you verified that
Yes.
firearm? Any objection?
No, it's good.
Okay. Be 38? Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, good.
Mr. Knox, I'm going to take this particular exhibit out of the case, and I'm going to have you talk about some of the characteristics that you found in the case once you first examined it. And even though it's not loaded, please do not point it in. Let's talk about what type of weapon that is, first of all.
Well, this is a Kel-Tec pistol. The model number is a P3AT. And this particular pistol is made with a polymer receiver similar to Glock, and there are a number of others that have made the same type of design. Glock sort of originated that design. This particular one, it's in a .380 auto caliber, so it's a fairly small cartridge, which allows the pistol to be a very small receiver and overall size. So that the idea behind a pistol like this is typically for it to be compact and easy for somebody to carry it in a pocket or carry it, in a purse or anything like that.
Okay. The design of this particular pistol, does the design of it lend itself to it snagging anywhere in your pocket or anything of that sort when you're trying to retrieve that firearm from your pocket?
It's designed to be, I won't say snag proof, that might be the term that they use, but I would say snag resistant in terms of that you don't, when the action is closed, the slide is all the way forward, you don't have any kind of sharp edges that would tend to catch on things, you don't have anything along the sides of it that would tend to catch or hang on any type of clothing. The sights are very low profile, again, so that it reduces the chance that it actually would snag or catch on anything. So, I mean, I can sit here and run my finger over these sights, quite easily, and it doesn't grab at my finger or anything like that. So it's made to be compact and reasonably snag resistant.
Now, this particular weapon is a small weapon.
That's
Would
right.
you tell the court how many bullets does it carry?
I believe that one can be loaded to 6 rounds, capacity of 6 rounds.
And certainly it's, frankly, smaller than my hand.
Right.
Detective, did you examine any of the bullet types that were used in this particular case?
Yes.
Okay, and without me having to remove all this, why don't you tell the court exactly what you remember the bullet types that were in this case, unless you want to see it. I'm going to show you what's in marked AP03 for purposes of identification, and I'll have you, if you want to open it, I can get you a scissors to do that.
Yeah, that would be fine. Let me review it.
Put the file on back, please.
I wrote it
I think this is the magazine here.
I'll do it in a place where it hasn't been done before. I'm going to show you now what's been marked as AP03. Okay, and so you're able to at least identify now some of the casings that were contained within that firearm?
Yes.
Okay, and what type of bullets were those?
This is Corbon ammunition. Corbon is the company that made it. It's .380 auto caliber, and you have the cartridge case here, and these had a lead-filled jacketed bullet. So it's not a hollow point, but what it has is an open point that has a filling in it, a lead filling in it.
Okay, and what does that mean?
Well, there are different types of bullet designs. Like you have full metal jacket bullets, for example, that there's copper that completely encases the bullet. With this type of a design, similar to a hollow point design, by having an open jacket at the nose and having it filled when that bullet comes in contact with some type of fluid, and that includes human tissue coming in contact with the body, it causes the bullet to expand, and that expansion causes the bullet to slow down more rapidly than it would if it didn't expand. The idea being is that you're exchanging more energy and slowing the bullet down primarily to reduce how much penetration, because what you don't want to have is a bullet that, if you're using it for self-defense, law enforcement purposes, things like that, you don't want to have one that is going to go through, come out the other side, and still be going fast enough that it could actually wound another individual that might be standing behind the person that gets shot.
So to a certain extent, it may have some safety features.
Right. I mean, the generally accepted reason for using, I mean, you know, for example, just about every law enforcement agency in the U.S. that I've ever encountered, officers carry hollow point ammunition or some variant similar to this because of that exact reason. You do not want to have over-penetration and have the potential that if you're shooting somebody in an uncontrolled environment where there might be another individual behind them, that you end up wounding an additional person by having a bullet that perforates them and then continues on.
Okay, let's put that back in there. Sure. Your Honor, we would move AP-04 and AP-03 into evidence.
What are they?
These are the bullets that you just. It's 4 carbon 380 auto bullets removed from AP-03.
Okay, and the other one is
That's coming.
magazine?
Yep, that's coming now. Showing you what's been marked as AP-03. I believe you've looked at this already, is
Yes.
that correct?
Yes.
Is that the magazine that belonged to the weapon?
It is, yes.
Okay. Your Honor, we would introduce AP-3 as the magazine that belonged to the weapon.
These were taken apart, I guess?
There were some loose ones.
Let's see that. With
Yeah, just
nothing inside, they're just empty casings?
casings.
Mhm.
There's one found the same.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
One found at the scene and the rest were in the magazine. I don't see all of the live ones. That one's the only one I see.
Yeah, I believe some of them were used for test firing for the actual recipient. So we're going to be sticking it into, at some point in time, to ballistics on those.
All right, because there's not 4.
They were consumed by that, during the firearm shop.
Okay. All right then. For what it's worth, that one is 39. Jackets and remnants. And this one is
Magazine.
that'll be 40 is the magazine.
Last but not least, we're going to show you what's been marked as 1 AP black holster, again PR number 49607, and see if you recognize that.
Yes, I do.
And what is this an exhibit of?
This is the holster that went with the pistol. It's just a slip type holster for it.
And do you know what this is made of?
This might be some type of like a neoprene or some type of rubber material. It's sort of like a composite material, I think.
We've stipulated to this as well. We'd like to see it.
Thank you.
We would like to introduce this to evidence as well.
It'll be amendment number 41.
Now, we left off with the fire cartridge case, so I haven't forgot about that. Tell the court how it is that a cartridge case is ejected, for lack of a better word. You may have a more forensic scientific word, but how is it ejected from a pistol like we've just seen?
Well, what you have is a semi-automatic pistol, which means it's an auto-loading pistol. So you have a magazine. The magazine carries a certain number of cartridges that are stacked one above the other. Every time that the